Alright, so in this Flambient tutorial, we're talking about me going back to basics. Like what I used to use is the AD600. And I later on got sick of carrying this thing around and decided to get the AD200. And I was using that for a long time, up until like yesterday. So I had a shoot yesterday and I thought, you know what? And I spent a couple days trying to figure out how I can go back to using the 600. And here's why. It's so nice to have the flash power of a 600 when you need it, instead of trying to adjust your camera settings and raising ISO or maybe dropping your aperture or whatever you need to do. This way, with the 600, I don't have to worry about much of anything, and I can leave things pretty much where they're at, just cranking that shutter, as long as I don't go over the normal sync speed, so I'm not in high-speed sync, of course. But then, I was also thinking, wouldn't it be nice if I could just, in most situations, just reach up over the camera and pop a flash and be done with it, mix it with my ambient layer and move on. Now, yes, I'm still running around lighting parts of the scene, like in bigger rooms. This isn't going to reach like a really long room, and it's not going to be able to do, you still have to go into each room and do multiple flash pops. But the other thing that I switched back to is, and if you've watched my tutorials as they've come out, is I was using the Olympus EM1 Mark II, but I didn't really like the app in that camera. And then I went to the GH5 Mark II, which I'm filming this video on. But there was just something I didn't like about the GH5 Mark II. It was just really hard to get things in focus because the screen, when you zoomed in, it just started getting pixelated quickly and you couldn't really tell if you were in focus or not. Whereas with the EM1 Mark II, you can zoom in like ×8 and it's still super clean. You can tell that you're in focus. So that's what I do. I switched back to the EM1 Mark II, and for this shoot, I used the Olympus 9 to 18 millimeter. I think it's a f4 to 5.6, and then I have my phone with this strap. And then the other thing is, because the reason why I hated lugging this 600 around was because it literally weighs like 10 pounds. But I have rigged up with a camera. One of those camera wrist straps. I just looped it through where you stick the umbrella on the AD600 on the handle, and then I just found an old strap and clipped it onto that. So I just loop it around, and I can literally hang this, and I'm going to stand up. I know it's going to cut my head off, but it just hangs right here. And I can sit here, I can go through a walk around the house. I just grab this, grab my cell phone, you're going to be able to see, and do my flash pops. If I have to let go of it, it's just hanging there. I can literally carry my tripod around the house, and it works so good. You're going to be able to see, and I'll show you some of these images that I took. We're going to get into how I edited them, but many of those, the images in this shoot, I just did an ambient layer and then a flash pop above the camera. So that's what I'm saying. Getting back to basics is when I'm manually just brushing in a little bit more ambient after I bring them into Photoshop. And it works. It's working very slick. So let's get into Lightroom right now. I'm going to show you how I edited these so you can see how they turned out using the AD600. Let's go. Alright, so here we are in a living room of this house, and this is just your typical ambient blend here. Let's reset this so you can see what I do. If you see my other tutorials, I really suggest you doing a custom preset over here. So that's what I did. I got to find my 9 to 18 initial, and for this, I was using neutral for a lot of mine, but I'm going to go to the Adobe Standard. And then each house is going to be a little bit different, so your custom presets are going to get you super close. And then this is what I like to do. Once you have kind of adjusted it for, like, the situation of that shoot, I just like to copy and then copy. You know what I mean? Kind of fine-tuning that. That's simple. It's not like you have to make a custom preset for every house. Use one that get you close, and then I like to just copy my settings, and then we're going to move on to the flash shot. So literally, this was kind of easy for me because that ceiling was peaked like this, so I could just reach that AD600 up kind of at an angle right at the top of the peak. I wasn't even really stretching that high. I just kind of popped it so it hit that ceiling, and then all that light came down, and there was literally minimal shadows. You can see a shadow behind this wood stove, the pipe of the wood stove here, and that's about it. So I did my preset already. Let's just bring these into Photoshop real quick. Edit in, open as layers in Photoshop. All right, so now that we're in Photoshop, and this is what I'm talking about, getting back to the basics. This is like old school. To me, it feels like old school Flambient method instead of, normally what you could do is take your ambient layer and drop it to 50%. But again, you still have shadows that aren't supposed to be there. So what I'm going to do is just create a layer mask, Command I to invert. I'm going to take my brush, make sure white is selected. My flow is at like 6%. I'm using a left bracket right now on my keyboard. Left and right bracket makes it bigger or smaller. And then I'm just going to start painting back in that ambient. And again, here is another tip. Start shooting with lights off. I don't even turn lights on in bathrooms anymore, especially small bathrooms. I just reach in, pop a flash, and usually one flash pop is enough. If I have like flash glare off like tile or something, I'll just move the flash to a different side, do a flash pop, and then you can blend your two flash pops together. Personally, I love just shooting with lights off, because when you're blending back in your ambient layer, you don't have to worry about tungsten color casts, typically. So let's just bring back in some of that ambient light here, and that's all we're really doing. I'm going to show you a trick, though. Look at that window pull, how clean that was. Even though the blinds are down, you can still see the lake. And, of course, it was an overcast day. But here we are. So we can try to change this to luminosity mode. And this is why I don't like it, because see how it gets right up here, that yellowish on the shadows. Yes, you can do a replay, like duplicate this layer and then change this layer to regular and then just paint in where you need to correct for that. Or you could do like an orange or yellow desaturation, paint it in. What a waste of time to me. And people are going to agree and disagree with me on this, but this is what I like to do. I'm just going to flatten the image at this point. Here's another method of getting correct color, or correct white balance, whatever you want to call it, getting rid of color casts. We are going to Command J to duplicate the layer, come up here to Filter, and then Blur, and then Average. So this is why we duplicate it, so we can use this layer as a correcting layer. So we're going to come down here now and create a curves adjustment layer. Take the middle eyedropper, because if you hover over it, it says Sample in Image to set gray point, and that's what we're going to do. We're going to set the gray point right there. And now we can toggle off this duplicated layer. And if we toggle off and on our curves adjustment layer, see how it pulled out the orange? Actually, what it's doing is if we click back on this, if you look here, it lifted the blues and dropped the reds. So that's what that does. So it might be too much. What I like to do is maybe 50%. Like that, and it still keeps it really clean, but it gets rid of that harsh orangish color cast that is caused by the sun coming in, or your flash power casting that orange color, that reddish hue off of that wood. So let's just flatten this, hit OK, and then Command S to save it, right back into Lightroom. I'm going to do my interior final bump, and I like to adjust my blacks. I hold down Option, and then I drop that black slider. You can tell where that blacks are clipping, just in the shadow of this couch right here. I don't really care, because there's no detail needed there. But there you go. One flash pop. Just a quick blend back in some of the ambient to get rid of the shadows that were caused by your flash pop, and you're good to go. Let's move on. I want to show you the kitchen. Let's see if it was this shot right here. Yeah. So there was, see, this is why I love to shoot with lights off, because you can use the natural light. If these lights were on, we were painting back in our ambient, you're getting color casts and orange color tungsten lighting, ruining your image. And again, agree or disagree, that's just my method, and I find it to be easier. So I suggest trying it out. If you're new and you're testing different things, tell the realtor that you're going to be lighting everything anyway. You don't need the lights on. So that's what I tell them. I said, well, images are going to look clean. It's going to be easier for me to get correct color. And that's how I sell it to them. And they're like, hey, you're the professional, whatever you want to do. And some of them were just be insisting on you having the lights on. And so you just got to do it. I did my final bump on this one. Here is the flash layer. And of course, we can light this over here. But if you notice, look at all that natural light coming in. I think I did run over and light it. Yes, I did. Okay, so we will bring it. Let me lift this one up. No, that's a little bit too hot like that. We'll do that. We'll highlight this one. We'll bring in the flash and then the ambient layer into Photoshop. So remember, when in doubt, light it. You know, just in case the ambient layer doesn't look good, at least you have balanced flash shots to blend together. And I'll show you another trick if you haven't seen any of my other tutorials about using lighten mode to merge your two flash layer, or any flash layer for that matter. Alright, so to blend your two flash layers to see how they look, we're going to shut the ambient layer off for now. Let's move the other flash layer to the top, right here. And all we do is change this to lighten mode, and it seamlessly blends in your other flash layer. Now you will get some discoloration, so let's turn on our ambient layer. See, this is, again, you can use your ambient layer as your ceiling repair layer. Basically, using your ambient layer when you have enough ambient light to fix for unwanted shadows caused by your flash, that kind of thing. So that's what we're going to do. We're going to create a layer mask, Command I to invert, and now we can just start painting back in. Whether or not we needed this other flash over here, but again, look at my flow is only at 6%. So we're basically blending only 6% of the ambient layer back in while still using some of that flash. And so I'm just painting back in, and because we had the lights off, we're not getting any color cast going, you know, and natural light coming in, hitting that china cabinet there. We do have some discoloration and some color cast, but I'm going to do my color correction here in a second. We flatten this. Now I have a custom action for this. I'm going to go function F3. That does it automatically. Then I just have to grab my picker tool here, turn that layer off. Look at that. It did turn it a little bit too blue, but we're going to drop that opacity to 50% and flatten that image. Hit OK. Command S to save it. Right back into Lightroom. Do an interior final bump. And there we go. Look at how clean that looks. If we zoom in, there's like really no real color casts. I mean, we have nice soft shadows. We have just a super clean looking image here. Did you catch that? Tripod leg. Now, if you catch that, it'd be easy to just do let's see if we can actually fix it in Lightroom here. It should just, yep, there we go. Just did basically a patch repair. There we go. And let's zoom back out. Alright, let's move on to another image. Okay, again, here's a bedroom shot. This is our ambient layer, and I ran around the corner here on the other side. This is like a bathroom that goes into that kitchen that where I was standing before. And this is the ambient layer, but it would have been tough to blend back in ambient light in here to get that window view. So I just ran around and did a flash pop right like that. So then when you turn this layer into lighten mode, it just gives you this layer. I'm going to show you that right now. So let's bring in all three of these into Photoshop, and I'll show you how we did it. Okay, again, here's our ambient layer. Here's our flash layer. And again, notice that I have a lot of natural light coming in. I mean, I use it. So let's shut the ambient layer off. Let's bring that other flash pop layer. Now watch this when I turn this to lighten mode. It gives us back the flash pop, and then we can just seamlessly blend back in. If I do a 50% blend, sometimes I like to try the 50% blend, because this is what's nice about this. I just do a layer mask. Don't invert it this time. Make it black. And now watch. If I want to get that window view, I don't care if I have the flash layer coming through. It looks like the light was on back there. And then all we're doing is painting back in our window view. So I'm going to flatten this image. I'm going to show you what I do every single time. Function F3 to do our color correction. Now this one was pretty close. It really didn't do much. So that means we were pretty close to that gray point. It pulled out that orange around the wall just a little bit. And it didn't do it too much. That way I just leave it at 100%. When there's not too much change, I just leave it at 100%. So let's flatten this. Hit OK because we don't need that other duplicated layer. Command S to save it. Bring it back into Lightroom. And let's do our interior final bump. Very clean. I like that. I am going to do my angle adjustment. Let's see if we just draw this line. That should be straight up and down. That's kind of how we need to be. Look at how clean and bright that looks. One flash pop. And if this was just a wall right here, that's all we would have needed to do. Alright, so let me just go and show you the flagged images here. Alright, here was a bathroom shot. Again, just one flash pop. I'm probably guessing like 16th power or something like that on the AD600. And again, just one flash pop above the camera. Maybe needed to go to 1/8 or 1/4 on this one. This one, because of this, the ceiling was lower right here. All I did was a composite on this side, and on this side, I didn't even do a flash pop above the camera on this one. So probably a 1/4 power here and a 1/4 power here. And I blended them together. Just one flash pop above the camera, manually blended in that ambient layer for this one. Look at how clean that is. And again, one flash pop above the camera. That might have been it because I believe I had the lights off. There was enough ambient light in this one. Same thing, flash pop above the camera. Maybe I'll just do this for you guys. I'll show you the two images. We'll go back to that one where it was. Yep, there's the one side and there's the other side. And of course, oh yeah, see, we did have the lights on, but I'm basically overpowering it. And let's see, what's this one? Ambient layer. See, there's plenty of natural light coming in. And then the flash pop by itself. Really super subtle shadow right there. So, I'll show you a couple more. Okay, this is just a repair because the flash layer had a glare there, and that was what that final image looked like. Alright, so there you go. That's with me shooting with the AD600. Like I said, make sure to hit that subscribe button. I got tutorials coming out all the time. Leave me a comment below if you have any questions about any of this stuff. I answer every comment. We'll see you in the next video, guys. Bye-bye.